only mode.
Greetings everybody and welcome. This is Detta Hunt with California Department of Social Services, and I'm here with Anya Dito, Jeff Lassiter, Stephanie Duran, and Tony Nguyen. We're going to get started here in just about a minute. Hello everybody, welcome to our webinar today. We're going to give people a little more time to get situated and to call in, so we'll be starting in about 2 to 3 minutes. Thank you. Hi everybody, I see this is Detta Hunt with California Department of Social Services. I see that you're all starting to join our webinar, and we're going to give it just a few more minutes. We have, new folks coming in, and we want to give them plenty of time to join. Greetings everyone, this is Detta Hunt. I'm here with Tony Nguyen, Anya Dito, Stephanie Duran, and Jeff Lassiter. Welcome to our webinar today. Thank you for successfully joining. and I just wanted to go over what you do for this webinar. Will be held in listen-only mode. There's two ways to connect, via phone or computer using the USB headset. And Tony, do you have the numbers for that? I realize I don't have a screen for that.
Hi Dana. The number will be provided to you once you log on to go to webinar. If you go to the audio section of your dashboard, it will give you the option to either be on microphone and speaker or telephone.
Thank you, Tony. Also, you'll be able to ask questions through the question box and interact with us through the question box that way. Our webinar today is about the fast track to what we do. And I just wanted to do some opening announcements to start with. The webinar today will really deal with kind of our new forms and process this year about streamlining our scope of work reporting. Also, just to let you know that we're in the process of updating our program guides and operation manuals where necessary, and current ones are available on our outreach website. I also wanted to remind all of you that our summit and kickoff training on October 17th and 18th, we wanted to let you know that please book your hotel rooms and your travel through CSU Sacramento if you have not already done so. And also I wanted to let you know that the reception on Monday night will also really be dinner on Monday night. We've decided that we might as well just go ahead and make it a dinner, and that way we can all enjoy each other's company in a more relaxed atmosphere. Also, we will be releasing shortly in a few days the contract program and the contract analyst pairings that we have for our program for starting in October. And there'll be a little bit of switching on some of those for the months of October, November, December, as Tony Wynn will be out on paternity leave, so Stephanie and I will be picking up the majority of the contracts during that time. And that's it. That kind of takes care of our opening announcements. Jeff, do you have any opening announcements?
All I want to say is welcome. Thank you for taking the time to go through this, and it's our hope for today that this will give you what you need to have in order to start rather than waiting for our conference or training coming up in October. So thank you for joining us today.
All right, I wanted to remind everybody this webinar will be recorded, and we will be providing the PowerPoint offline. And here we go. Program goals. CalFresh Outreach, many of you, I'm looking at the names on the screen, and you guys are all real well aware of our program goals, but really we are to assist people in applying for CalFresh. We want to raise awareness of the benefits of the program. We also want to help address myths and barriers and stress the importance of people maintaining their benefits. We really don't want to have a revolving door that all your hard work that you've done to bring somebody into the program, and also the work that the county has done to do the intake. So those are very important to our core values for our program. One of the things to know when you're really looking at doing CalFresh outreach, there's just some basic rules of thumb. Number one is expedited service. Expedited service is when the family has only a very minimal amount, like $100 or less in their checking account, no food in the house. At that point, you can take them and do an application online, But depending on the family circumstance and depending on how your county operates and their proximity to the welfare office, the client's proximity to the welfare office, you might want to just send them down to the welfare office. It's more important that they get those benefits within those 3 days. Also, please make your referral to your food banks and your other partner agencies as needed, because, you know, a family with no food in the cupboard is something that really should not be happening. Another thing to keep in mind is determination of household size. And, you know, the basic rule of thumb for CalFresh is purchase and prepare together. We really want to make sure that, you know, we understand the dynamics of the household and we understand what that means regarding household size. The same with household gross income and net income. Gross income is the amount prior to taxation, prior to money coming out for child care or medical expenses. Net income is after those things have been removed from the household income. So even though a household may appear to be borderline on the gross income test, it's really important to go ahead and take the application anyway, because on net income they may be eligible. Also, there are special rules for people age 60 and older. There's the Supplemental Security and Supplemental Security Payment, SSI, SSP. Students, certain immigrants, able-bodied adults without dependents, we fondly call them ABODs, children in foster care, boarders, and individuals who are homeless. We have a variety of program sheets to help you with those special rules. Probably the biggest one you're going to use is all about the S's, and that you'll find on our CalFresh Outreach website. But those are the main things that you need to sort of have a working knowledge of, and that you need to be able to, you know, have a good understanding and grasp of those things when working with our client population. Okay, here's where the rubber hits the road. What is a good application? A good application needs to be submitted online. We want to continue working with our online applications. That's the best application. It's the one that goes directly to the county. It's the one that really gets processed quickly for the client, and it's the one that's probably easiest to complete. A good application also, like I said, needs to be complete, and it needs to include documentation. We're still working with some of the consortiums in the ability to submit documentation, and your program analyst can work with you directly if you have questions about your county or the consortium you're working with in the submission of that documentation. But the bottom line is, when you're working with the client, you need to explain the importance of that documentation and what that documentation needs to be, so that they're prepared, especially if they're going to go into the welfare office for their interview or they're going to have their phone interview. An application that's submitted by a client is really not considered an application submitted by your agency. It really needs to be, we don't want to discourage anybody from submitting an application, but there again, the importance of having the application complete, having the documentation, and not having errors in the application is very important, and it's a critical aspect of what you're doing as far as getting a good, clean application to the county. All right, semi-annual reporting and SAR-7 and annual recertification. We call that a triple R. And these are things where I was talking earlier in this about, we want to avoid that revolving door. We really want clients to stay on the program the whole entire time they're eligible. We don't want them to lose eligibility just because they don't turn in a SAR-7 or do their annual recertification. These forms are simply the household eligibility status report. You know, there's a couple different ways to handle this. When you sit down with the client, you make note of when these dates are, and you know, it'd be great if you can set up a process in your agency so that you can You set up a process in your agency so you can notify the clients when these status reports are due. And the other thing is just encourage households to come into your agency, come in and work with your, or call into your agency in the case of 211, and you can walk through completing the SAR-7 or the Triple R. Again, they only need to be submitted, the SAR-7 once a year, the Triple R once a year. In some cases for seniors, that there's special rules. So again, consult the program sheets, the program guides. Suggested strategies. You know, we want you to meet with your county. We really encourage a good dialogue with your county and really look at the county priorities, their needs, and their outreach goals. A lot of counties have different approaches to outreach, and they'll want you to play a different role. So it's always good to have good partnership and good communication with your county. Because CDSS will be providing the approval rate data for your scope of work, there's no need to contact counties for approval data. You don't need to contact counties to hunt down an application. You don't need to contact counties to, you know, find out what the status is and whether or not that application's been approved. We really need you to not spend your time doing that, and we've worked very hard over the last 18 months to really work with the consortiums and move forward going into a modern era where we're looking at that, that data and the approval rate. Other strategies. Okay, like I said, use a system to remind clients when their SAR-7s and their Triple Rs are due. Also, when you're working with clients, remind them to write down the name and phone number of their county eligibility worker or what the appropriate contact information is for their local CalFresh office. Many counties have multiple CalFresh offices, and so it's always good to keep that information. That way, when the county has a question, they're calling into the right, or they're responding to a notice of action, they're calling into the right agency. They're sending that documentation to the right to the correct CalFresh office that's handling their case. Another best practice is you may want to track electronic applications by saving the confirmation numbers, the source ID numbers. That's when you complete an application with a client online and there's a confirmation number that's provided. That way, if for some reason that you do have a question on the status of that application, you will have those confirmation numbers and they can be electronically tracked in the system. And I believe Anya is going to go into a little more detail on how that tracking works. All right, guys. Are there questions at this point? Our next portion of this presentation, Anya is going to go into much greater detail into the scope of work tracking, and the consortiums. So this was just sort of the warm-up, but are there any questions? I'm not seeing any. Oh, we
to
got
start
some
off,
questions.
we do have a couple questions in our question box, and I'll go ahead and read those off first. And then maybe we can open it up afterwards for anyone who wants to do a verbal question. So the first question that we have here is, will approval data provided by CDSS be client level data, and will it include denial reasons for each individual client?
You know, I'm going to let Anya talk about that. I think she's going to go into much more detail during her portion of the presentation.
Hello, everyone. This is Anya Dito. Actually, I can answer that question now as well. It's not necessarily client-level data. It's more aggregate. So meaning it will tell us the number of applications that were submitted in a month, or the number of applications that were approved, or the number of applications that are denied or pending. But it does not give us client-level data like, you know, Jane Doe applied on January 15th. That will not be that information will not be there. We want to protect personal information, and that is why we want aggregate reports.
Okay.
Okay.
Other questions?
So the next question that we have here that was submitted was, can you download SAR7 and RRR forms?
Yes, those forms are available. They're available on the regular CalFresh website. So it's in CDSS. CalFresh will get you that website address. I apologize for not having it on the screen, but it'll be in the presentation. So it's just the regular CalFresh CDSS website for Department of Social Services, and those forms are downloadable there.
Okay, and that was our second question. If anybody has any further questions that they want to submit through the question inbox and stay anonymous, they can go ahead and do that. Right now we're going to open it up so you can raise your hands in case you want to ask a question verbally. Oh, before that, we do have one more question coming in. It says, do you have any examples of best practices for working with counties on the individual counties' CalFresh goals?
Like I said, the biggest thing in working with counties, a lot of counties have work groups. They work a lot with their private nonprofits in their counties, their food banks, their Catholic Charities organizations, and things like that. Many times there'll be work groups and things like that that you can hook into with the counties. The biggest thing is just to reach out, and you've got to move beyond working with an individual eligibility worker. There's ways to do it where you can you want to get in touch with the CalFresh coordinator. We'll be talking a lot more about this in our kickoff training, and I think there's going to be a whole presentation on best practices, and part of that will be working with your county.
Okay, so that's the last question that came in through the question box. We're going to see if there are any raised hands now, and you can go ahead and do that, and we will unmute you so you can ask your question.
Oh, I see one. Ana Bolanos.
All right, so we're going to unmute you, Anna, for your question. You can go ahead and speak.
Ana? Okay, Anna, if anything, maybe you could type in the question. If you have access to the computer, just go ahead and type in the question if you still would like to ask it.
Okay, since there are no further questions, then I think we can move on.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I'm going to turn it over to Anya and let her get started on her. There we go. Yes. And there you go.
Thank you, Detta. Thank you, everyone, to my team and to all of you for being here today, our partners. And I wanted to give you a disclaimer first about what my thought process was about when I began designing the scope of work. So our program has grown. We have more partners. We have continuous partners, but we also have new ones that we are onboarding, and we really wanted to make this program more streamlined, more simplified, and so I really thought about what I could do to help simplify internally for our analysts and as well as for you, our partners, how we can make this a simpler process but something that still allows us to capture data. And so with that in mind, I will start our discussion. And what I'm going to do is discuss our kind of like the process of scope of work, and where will we begin is the electronic portion of things. So for scope of work reporting, currently, all counties utilize one of the 3 statewide automated welfare systems, and so that's Leader, that's Your Benefits Now application, C4, the See for Yourself, CalWin, that's My Benefits CalWin, and they allow individuals to apply for benefits online and also manage their cases. So a client can apply online on their own, but CBOs can also assist in the CBO portals. And CBOs who are able to utilize the portals appropriately will see their electronic applications in CBO custom reports. And so that is another thing that we are working on, and I will share with you about, we've reached out to the consortia to make sure that they provide you the tools so that you get credit for your work when you are applying, assisting someone with applying online. And I believe that what I'm going to do next is discuss the different counties that the consortium is located in. So CalWin is located in 18 counties. I understand that some of you are very aware of all of this, but for someone who may be more new to the program, I think this will be helpful. Additionally, C4, they have 39 counties. And finally, we have Leader. It's 1 county, LA. However, at some point in the future, Leader will merge with C4. They are in the process, and, but it will take time, of course, for everything to operate the way they want it to, and they're taking many steps before that happens. But you will be, of course, alerted when these changes occur. So for first thing first, you will of course need to set up an account with one of the consortia, and we wanted to hear from them what are the best practices, what is the right way to do something for to set up an account for the CBO so that they are getting credit for their work. And we've already posted for C4, we posted on the current page that you see here, the page 3300, the document that shows you, it's like a 5-page step-by-step process that shows you what are the best ways to set up the account with them. We reached out to Leader and CalWin as well, and Leader is providing an in-person training, and it's been scheduled for our contractors working in LA County. Tentatively, we've set it up for October 12th. We just heard the news today. As you may recall, originally it was set up for October 3rd, but we decided to move it a little bit further out to give everyone a chance, and it will be October 12th instead. CalWin, we are waiting to hear back from them, so it will be determined what is the best way that we'll hear from them, whether they want to do in-person training or whether they want to do the same thing where it's just a simple document showing step-by-step process how to set up the account with them and get counted in those CBO custom reports that we will discuss in a few minutes. For naming conventions, so that's another issue. Basically what we would like to see is that we maintain the agency name consistent in our scope of work reports that we report to CDSS, that it's consistent with the CBO application assistance portals, meaning the consortia portals where you assist the applicant. We want to make sure that we keep the naming of the agent, our contractors, consistent so that we can locate you in our reports and give you credit for your work. So it will be helpful if you keep your CBO portal and scope of work reporting naming conventions up to date with us as well, in case, you know, things change, people's names change, organization names change, and it'll be helpful to keep maintaining that information flow with us. So that's that for the naming convention. So now I'd like to move to CBO custom reports. CDSS will make CBO custom reports available to you. We are deciding about what the best way will be, whether it will be online or individually. We're not sure yet, but once we figure out a system, we will disclose that to you and let you know. Monthly reports they provide the name of each agency, so they're, like I said earlier, they are aggregate. So, but they do provide valuable information. They will provide agency name within each county and the number of submitted electronic applications, processed ones as well, so approved or denied, and the number of pending electronic applications. This will help us, hopefully help you streamline your processes as well. And this is what I wanted to pull from one of the reports so you could see what the columns would look like. So CBO ID would be a number, let's say 67. That number would be connected to the agency names. That number is given by the county to the agency. Then we have the column for agency name, we have county, and then the application submitted, approved, denied, and pending. Now, your agency will review the submitted applications and report this information in the scope of work report. I or someone at Outreach will then add the approved and denied columns to fill in the overall approval rate for the reporting period. So basically you will have to submit less information moving forward in the scope of work report, and we will kind of share the workload and make sure that we put in information like the approved and denied numbers, but then also share that information back with you. And I will discuss that in a minute again. So for electronic application submission, each month you'll submit the application to the county. Let's say this is specifically for electronic applications. Not all of the applications you submit in the month will be approved that month. For example, for the month of January, the report will show how many applications were submitted, how many were processed as approved or denied, and then how many are still pending. If your agency submitted, let's say, an application on January 31st, the application will likely show up as submitted in January. However, it's highly likely that it will not be processed until the following month. So the approval, it will be counted as approved or denied in the following month's report, not in January's report. So that is how the custom reports work, so that you understand what we're capturing in the data. And of course, eventually the electronic data will show up as either approved or denied. And so once it does, that's when it shows up in that month's report, depending on when it was processed. So for approved applications, once a CBO submits the scope of work report that I will show you in a minute, CDSS will finalize the electronic approved application count from the CBO custom reports. So what's going to happen is you locate your agency name and you put in, you see that, oh, okay, we submitted 25 applications this month. You will have multiple agencies. For some of you, it might be just you, right? But others will have multiple subcontractors. You add the submitted columns for submitted electronic paper, SAR7s, and triple Rs, and then you send us the scope of work report, after which we will go in and review the approved application numbers and denied to basically calculate the approval rate. So the paper application of approval rate will be the same as the overall applying agency, the prime agency, their electronic approval rate during that same reporting period. So if you submit a January, for the month of January, you submit your report, then we will review January's approval and denial, and then we will find out what the numbers are for approved. The approval formula, electronic approval rate, is calculated simply by looking at approved electronic applications divided by the sum of approved and denied electronic applications. And then, for example, let's say you had submitted 10, 5 are approved, 5 are denied, that's a 50% approval rate. Simple. We are doing this formula this way because we want to exclude the pending applications, because the way the custom reports are set up, They are looking at the snapshot within that month, what happened to the applications that month. And we do want to exclude the pending applications because they can affect the approval rate. So that it will be a more accurate approval rate moving forward. So I will leave some room for questions. Does anyone have any questions right now at this moment? Stephanie, can you?
Hi, Anya. It looks like we've gotten some questions that have come in the question box, so I'll go ahead and read those off first.
Thank you.
So we have one. Oh, you're welcome. The first one that we have is, we are a new agency and would like to know how our applications will be tracked.
Wonderful. Yes. So the electronic app, this is that's why we really needed our new contractors to be at this webinar. The way it works is we will provide you with the electronic submission reports from the consortia. So from CalWin, from C4, and from LEADER. These reports are aggregate reports like I had shown earlier. Let me go back to the slide prior. And so they will have, goodness, my goodness, where is it? Let me go back for a second. From current slide. There it is. So this is what it would look like, where it will have the CBO ID, the agency name, the county that they were working in, and then how many they've submitted, how many were approved, how many denied, and how many pending. But the CBO custom reports capture electronic only. So once you have that information, you will self-report the paper applications that are submitted. You will self-report SAR-7s, and then you will also self-report recertifications, otherwise known as triple Rs. And I hope that answers the question, because I will continue, there will be more discussion on this subject.
Thank you, Anya. The next question that we have is, will the CBO custom reports distinguish between first-time applications, renewals, and SAR-7s?
The custom reports, or?
Yes, will the CBO custom reports distinguish between first-time applications, renewals, and SAR-7s?
Yeah, that's the thing. CBO custom reports are for electronic new applications only. We self-report, so contractors self-report paper, SAR-7s, and recertifications. For submitted only. We will take care of the approval numbers.
Okay, next question. We won't normally have the approved plus denied equals submitted in a given month, since the number approved or denied will normally include pending from previous month rolling over to current month, right? So we could have 50 applications submitted electronically, but could have 60 approved and 30 denied if there's rollover from the previous month?
Basically, yes, because it's looking at that time frame. So you may have less submitted, you may have some hanging around that are still pending, but you've had a certain number that were approved, that were basically processed by the county. So the approval rate we're looking at is based on what the county has touched and what the county has acted upon, whether they approved it or denied, because that will exclude unnecessary data from the formula, because if you are including pending applications, that will skew the formula and it could actually make your approval rates look lower than they really are.
Thank you. Our next question is, what happens if our data does not match your approval rate?
Great question. If I recall correctly, maybe Jeff can step in and assist with this one, but if I recall correctly, we want to encourage you to focus on application assistance and not necessarily tracking whether their applications are approved. Am I correct in my understanding?
Yes, and I would go further to say that part of what you can do to help us is going to be in the next portion of this webinar that Anya is going to go over as to how you can, work with us to verify your application submitted by tracking the confirmation numbers. And Anya will go into that in just a little bit.
Yes, all we need, the only thing this does with that is very helpful actually is giving us the confirmation numbers, and then we will do the work and contact the consortia and keep our conversation going and ensure that the data is captured accurately. So we will do our part on our end.
And one of our primary goals too is to give you full confidence in the reports and the system that's been developed. So work with us on this, and hopefully you will quickly come to the place where you're confident in the process.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Any more questions? Stephanie, I can't hear.
I'm sorry about that. So that's all the questions that have come in through the question box at this time. We'd like to give everybody one last chance if they'd like to raise their hand and ask a question verbally.
Oh, no questions. Okay. Okay, let's move on to the next step.
Oh, I'm so sorry, Anya. One last question come in.
Oh, good.
So it reads, we are in Los Angeles County, a new agency, and we are not able to set up a CBO account with the information you sent via email. We are considered leader.
Yes, it will be very valuable for you to attend the in-person training that LA County has set up for October 12th. That is very valuable training where you can ask directly someone who's training you what you need to do and what steps will be taken, because we are in conversation with them about needing their assistance, because we do want you to have your work accounted for. You need that credit.
And this is Jeff again. Just to add to that, LA County at that meeting will not only train how to use their system, your benefits now, but they will also be setting up the user accounts necessary to have everything tracked. And actually it's transitioning from Leader to LRS, which is just Leader Replacement System. But they will explain all that on the 12th. So it is a very important meeting, and we hope that you can certainly make that and get signed up.
Yes, great question.
Okay, there are no more questions.
Okay, all right, let's move on to the next one. So for scope of work, the reporting template. We want to report electronics. So as I mentioned earlier, the CBO, or our contractor, aka our partner, you will report the electronic submitted applications via the CDSS provided scope of work report template for each invoice period. So the scope of work report will tell you the CBO custom report will tell you the electronic count, and then you will provide that information in the scope of work report. So this is specifically the template that you will send to us. You will locate your organization name on the CBO custom reports. Those are the ones that are coming in from the consortia, so that's C4, CalWin, or Leader, and then that we provide to you, and that's how you get the electronic submitted numbers. And then you will self-report the number of submitted applications for the paper, as I had mentioned earlier, SAR7s and triple Rs. For scope of work reports, the naming practice, this is specifically the XLS file, the Excel file, okay? So it's just going to be a blank template, but we want to have consistent naming practices for this as well. So it will just say scope of work. I threw one in there, one of our agencies that we're hoping to partner with, right? Code for America. What reporting period are they reporting for? Quarter 1, 2016, and you're done. And then you send it in. in addition to submitting the numbers or to reporting the number of submitted applications, you will also report information on special populations. This is necessary for our federal reports, or federal reporting, I should say. You will select all categories that apply to each household's application and report the agency's total per reporting period in the optional tracking tool that I will discuss in the end. I created an optional tracking tool that you can use, or you can create your own if you would like. The three special populations that we want to focus on this time around, we have less than before, because once again, in the spirit of streamlining and simplifying and really focusing on populations that are easier to locate in your applications. And so we would like to track households with children who are younger than 18, then households with seniors who are 60 years or older, and then also working low-income households. And so when you're reporting this one, like I said before, that you will select all categories that apply. So if a household is with children, with seniors, and the working low income, then you would select all three, because all three apply. It's one application, but all three apply, because then I can do binary review and say, oh, okay, of all of our applications, X% are households with children, X% are seniors, and you understand what I'm saying. If not, please ask away. But I think you're all very bright and very hardworking. So next, scope of work. This is what it's going to look like. It's very new, very different, but it's very much simpler than before, because we are trying to keep it pivot table friendly for internal oversight, and also keep it as simple as possible, so there will be no extra tabs like before. It would be just one spreadsheet that you send in every month or quarter, depending on how you report. You will enter the prime contractor's name up at the top. Then you will select the month, quarter, and year. So it's a drop-down menu for the month and year. So it will be December. I just selected one so you could see. If it's a quarterly one, then you just select the December/Q1, and then it will have the year for it already automatically in there. And then you will have how many columns? 2, 4, 6, 8, 9. 9 columns to fill in. One will be the agency name. So this would be, let's say, if you're a working prime and you submit applications, then you would enter your name, or if it's your subcontractor name. So you would just enter their name, then you enter the county that they worked in that month, or reporting period, I should say, and then you will just enter how many applications were submitted from the CBO custom reports. Then you will self-report paper applications, SAR 7s and triple Rs. And then also you will have the target populations information depending on what kind of population you're reporting on. And you will enter all three for each agency per county. And once again, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask away in the questions box or raise your hands if needed, because I will leave room for questions. Next, to submit the scope of work reports, we want to ensure that we capture them on time. And so what I'm asking you kindly is two things. A, the invoice will be processed. So you will send the invoice, and what happens is you send in the scope of work and targeted population report at the same time. So the invoice will be processed once the scope of work is submitted during the same reporting period. And then you can email the scope of work and targeted population reports to the CalFresh Access inbox instead of to the individual analyst that you're assigned to. And if you have questions on that, please, once again, keep asking. So now I want to go over the optional individual tracking tool, and then I have a roll-up one that I will discuss. So to assist your agencies with tracking the targeted populations, this is specifically to assist with tracking targeted populations and possibly overall for yourself to see how you're doing for your program. but this is really focused on helping you calculate how the targeted population numbers. So I have an example here. You'll select the fiscal year drop-down menu, then you'll enter the agency name, and then you could keep it for yourself. You know, let's say Jane Doe wants to track a monthly reports. So what I have here is we count for each household, or aka application. So I created a fictitious confirmation number for one of the electronic applications, and then for that one I decided, hey, they are a household with children and they are working low income. Next, I had a paper application, or I should say Jane Doe. I had a paper application submitted. She assisted with that one, and so that was for a household with seniors and working low income. Then she goes and submits a triple R, and it's only a household with seniors. And finally, another electronic application is submitted, and they have households with children and working low income. So what happens? This one, I have a roll-up tab, summary roll-up tab, that shows us what happened just to the page prior. So, for example, households with children younger than 18 years old, as you can see, it counts the 2 that were checked off. Then it counts household with seniors, the 2 that were checked off. And then it counts the working low income. As you will see, it's 3 people, or 3 households that were there. And so overall, it gives us a roll-up. And hopefully that will assist you. Once again, this is an optional tool. If you want to come up with your own creative idea, I'm all for that. If you would like to share that, that's great. But this is something that we came up with. And so what I did for this one, for the optional tracking tool, this one does have tabs. So it has the 12 months for each tab, and then it has that summary tab that rolls up everything for you beautifully for the end of the month. The most important thing to note, though, is not to add spaces, because it uses the counta function. So it means if you add a space, it'll count the space. So use either an X or leave the cells blank. And now I will go to the optional roll-up tracking tool. This one is for the agency. Once again, if you choose so to use this tool, let's say they have 4 application assisters who work there at the agency, and they track their own numbers, and then you have one person who says, hey, you know, we need to report this month so that we can get our invoices turned in and get our reimbursements. And maybe you want to use the roll-up tracking tool to calculate overall, because you are reporting to us your overall agency number. We're not looking at individual numbers. So that could help you if you would like. I added additional, I think up to 2,000 rows for this one for agencies that are really large, in case you have a lot to report for that reporting period. But once again, this is a optional tool, and if you have any additional ideas or thoughts that you want to create for yourself, that's great, but we did want to provide a tool for you in case you needed one. And that's it for today. These documents will be available to you soon. We will also discuss these for discuss this in a little bit more detail. Also, based on the questions that we are getting, we will make sure that we incorporate the information in our presentation for the summit that is happening in October. And I will leave room to say thank you. And do you have any questions?
Hi, Anya. We do have some questions that have come in.
Okay.
All right, so the first one we have here, are electronic applications tracked per individual or per household? For example, if we did applications for 4 individuals in one household, would we count that as one household in the special population or 4?
Great question. So we are looking at households. It's a great question, but we are focusing on households. So on application, like you submit one application, it's a household of 3, but you're still just selecting what categories apply to that household, not how many people are in the household, just the application, one application. Did they have any children in households with children? Was this household with children? Did they have any seniors, or were they working low income? Simple as that. If you need to ask the question again, please feel, because if I need to clarify it a little more, I would love to.
Thank you, Anya. Our next question is there a specific definition for working low income?
This is Detta, and I'll take that one. Hi, Emily. Basically, working low income are those households that are receiving an earned income. So they have a job, they are receiving a paycheck, and they're receiving an earned income. There's more specific definitions, I believe, on our website, and I will make sure that we'll go into more detail when we do our training. But it's households with income.
Okay, for our next question. There are the conference numbers, source ID numbers required to be reported for submitted applications, or can we use any non-confidential identifier?
So the reason we are asking for confirmation numbers or source IDs, depending on what the consortia calls it. Some of them call it confirmation number, some call it source ID. Depending on that, the reason we ask for source ID only is because we want to protect personal information. And so all we need is that confirmation number. It's the breadcrumb that helps lead to the trail for the consortia, because they can type in the confirmation number and then internally they can see what happened to the application. But that way personal information is protected. Great question.
For our next question, it says, hello, will the PowerPoint be available after the webinar?
Yes, we want to make it available to you, and because we may add a couple more pieces of information because of the questions you've asked, but we will gladly share this with all of you, because I think, yes, it is helpful information that you can start kind of focusing on and thinking about for your agency's needs.
The next question we have here was a follow-up to the tracking in households. So it says, okay, I understand the tracking for the special populations in household. For just tracking the number of applications, SAR-7 and triple Rs, is our reimbursement based upon the number of individuals?
Good question again. No, your reimbursement is based on your effort. Scope of work is really for you to see how close you are to reaching your goal, but it's not connected to how much you will be reimbursed. Did I answer that correctly, team?
Yes, ma'am. This is Detta Hunt. Yes. It's exactly as Anya stated. It's really based on the number of applications, the number of SAR-7s, and the number of triple Rs. We use that to look at your scope of work and where you're going as far as meeting your program goals and expectations. Your actual reimbursement is based on your time and effort forms and based on your budget expenditures.
Okay, and for our next question, how do you define effort?
Detta?
Oh,
Many things.
We define effort on how you, now are you talking, Abraham, are you talking about effort like your time and effort forms? Because those are your, how many hours you spent, how many hours your staff spent, or are you talking in terms of reimbursement? Yes, sir. That's on. You will do time. You will fill out time and effort forms based upon the hours you spend doing CalFresh allowable activities.
So USDA allowable, the ones that are in compliance with USDA guidance.
Yeah. So when you work with a client and you sit down and you take an application and your worker spends maybe a half an hour, 45 minutes with that worker, and they take 6 applications during the course of an afternoon. So those 4 or 5 hours that they spend taking applications would be counted on their time and effort logs, just like you would track any time for any kind of other job you would do using a time and effort form. Salaried employees are a little different. We can get into more specifics at the training in October.
Any more questions, Stephanie, or anyone?
Yep, it looks like we have one that came in. It says, do we have permission to use the CalFresh PowerPoint to train the subs? Can the PowerPoint be modified to best fit our contract and subcontractor needs?
Certainly, we would love you to use these materials to do training. You're probably going to need a little more detail than what's provided here, and as we pull together the materials for the training in October, we'll have more details added into these slides. And you're more than welcome, of course, to use them and modify them for your purposes of training your subcontracting agencies.
Yeah, I think it's very valuable to pass on the information to your subs.
All right, so that was the last of the questions that came in. At this time, we would like to open it up for anybody who wants to raise their hand and ask a question verbally. Okay, it looks like we have no further questions coming in.
This will be the end of our webinar for today, and we will be making the webinar available on our website and the PowerPoint presentation as well. Thank you very much for joining. We look forward to seeing you and in our training and summit in October. Again, I urge you, if you have not made your travel arrangements through CSU Sacramento, please do so. That's the only way we can reimburse you for this training. And again, to remind you that dinner will be provided on Monday night. So thank you very much, and we look forward to a fabulous next 2 years.
Thank you, everyone.